The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Kelly, thank you for being here with us, first of all.
Thanks for having me on.
Well,
Kelly, welcome.
Yeah, we're really glad you're here, and please be comfortable. This isn't a big attack thing. So, now let's just first of all, you were married to Alex Jones for how many years?
I was with Alex for 15 years, and I was married to him for 12 years.
Wow.
So that's a substantial relationship.
Yes.
How many children do you have with the two of you?
We have 3 kids.
Okay, so that's sort of set. Now, if I can, now you applied for a divorce originally about a year ago, was it, or 2?
No, the big news stories that came out in April of last year about the jury trial that happened, that was actually a suit filed by my ex-husband after divorce. So it was a suit affecting parent-child relationship, a custody suit. And so I actually filed for divorce way back in 2013, and I've been in something like, 4 years of litigation coming up here, or I guess almost 5 now, yeah.
Wow.
4.5. Including the divorce.
How old are your children right now?
So what I know people are interested in the kids, and what I really try to do is to keep them out of this as much as possible. But we have, kids in all different levels of school, from elementary to high school.
So it's a very that's an age where people can really pick up a lot of things, isn't it? It probably can't be easy. Now, what has been your biggest concern, if we start at the top, with what's going on between you and your ex-husband now?
So, first of all, this lady just wants to air dirty laundry, and this is personal business, and, what is she even talking to these guys about? But really, I first to come forward because, and I'm very happy to do so, by the way, on your true crime show, what's going on and what's happened in the past with my case is really a very complicated and disturbing true crime story. It's a case of serious corruption in the county I live in, which is Travis County, Texas, with multiple bad actors and I would dare to say even conspiracy or collusion between bad actors that has resulted in me, first resulted in me losing custody of my kids for years off of lies and perjury that they've admitted, and then ultimately my kids are still in this situation because the law...
When you say that you feel that Alex has presented your children to danger, what are those dangers that you speak of?
Well, there are dangers that came out in court that include severe abuse, medical neglect, exposure to adult content, quasi-abandonment. So there are real concrete issues that came up and were put before the court.
Wow. Now, you said a mouthful there. Physical abuse, exposure
I
to
said
adult
abuse.
content.
I didn't say physical abuse, although there was some unreported abuse. However, that was not, I'm not contending that or alleging that had happened at Alex's hands. What I said was abuse, and most of the abuse in this case is in the ephemera of being severe emotional or psychological abuse. But that abuse was shown, and that's the abuse that I tried my case off of, and it's evident. There's recordings and all matter of materials that show this to be true. So, and I certainly wouldn't say it if it weren't, because he's the most litigious guy on the planet. But yes, serious abuse and serious medical neglect. Another problem I have when I tell my story is I can't really disclose my children's medical history and things of that nature. So, but I will say that it was, in some cases to me, it was life endangering or possibly endangering. And, of course, additional to that was the exposure to things no one would want their kids exposed to, Substance abuse issues, I didn't bring that up, but it certainly came out heavily in court. And quasi-abandonment, during the divorce, there were periods, months of time that Alex was away from the kids, and yet still they couldn't be with their own mom, which is kind of hard to believe. So.
Well, let's start with this then. If you feel safe talking about this, well, let's talk about the medical neglect. I mean, seen as how Alex's, media empire is based on the sale of supplements and health supplies.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can talk about what came out in open court. I'm pretty sure, and it was, I would say, like, not the most serious issue that my children have had to deal with. But my very young child had a broken toe. I mean, I know it's not the end of the world, but this child was really in a lot of pain and went for months without it even being treated or looked at, and everybody was like, oh, it's no big deal. Well, I took her, and, she did have a broken toe. And this all came out in court again. So the other things I'm not going to talk about because I am concerned about exposing my children more. And actually, I'm really scared to talk about it, guys. Can we not talk about it? Because I'm afraid he's going to sue me. I mean, if I can tell you something off the record, I will, to show you that I'm being truthful. But I have to be really careful because I don't want to get in.
We understand that, and actually, we will simply concentrate on what is on the record, because we here at the House of Mystery, we don't want to feel like we're hiding anything. So whatever you feel safe talking about, we will go in that direction. How about this? This is a little bit safer question. You're asking, you talk about your underage children being on the show or being exposed to media. I'll
tell you guys off the air. I can tell you off the record what they've been exposed to, and your jaw will drop, and you probably won't be his big fan anymore. But and you can. Why don't you broadcast that part of it? Like, I'll just say, look, I can't talk about a lot of the real hardcore, upsetting issues that are affecting my children, because it exposes them to public scrutiny, and it's just highly disturbing. I mean, it's things, they're CPS reportable offenses, right? I can say that, like very many of them. And CPS reportable concerns. And like I was saying before, I understand that, Kevin is a fan, but I think if he understood what had come out in court, and the court was open during the divorce, but I was gagged from talking, so the media wasn't there to cover it. But if people really knew what had come out, I don't think he'd be having very many more fans, because it's really horrific. I mean, these are vulnerable little kids, grown into older kids, but they're still children, who have been left in horrific situation. So.
Yeah, but certainly, Kelly, you can understand that me knowing something, that's fine. If Alex loses one fan, no big deal. If I quit buying Brain Force or the Red Pill, that's one thing.
You might get a brain.
Yes. But, for the listeners, I don't feel good knowing something that they don't know. So we can talk about something that all the listeners can understand.
Yeah, later you can tell it. Later
that's fine.
No, you could tell.
Okay, I understand. Well, I mean, what all the listeners can know that I have given to law enforcement is that there was serious aggravated perjury that happened in my case on both the financial side and on the custody side. I had a case that was bifurcated, questionably so, way back, in 2014, and lies were said that resulted in me losing. I mean, Alex walked away with the majority of our finances and our future earnings and things of that nature. You talked about these supplements, and I think one thing that I can say that I've said before that should be interesting to everybody is that I actually really opposed the supplements. I felt like Alex and I at that point, and I was very outspokenly opposed to his sort of more hateful and disturbing content. I had really distanced myself from the content part of our business, whatever. But I said, no way do I want those supplements. You know, these businesses formed. I don't agree with that. And then behind my back, my own attorney, and I was the managing member of our company. I was 51% owner, managing member, or whatever it's called. Behind my back, my own attorney went and formed these supplement businesses with Alex's parents, who prior to the divorce were living in a one-bedroom pool house and now live in a multi-million-dollar mansion. And they formed these businesses, which then they worked in a lot of our hard assets into. And so when it came time to split it all up, well, it wasn't there to be split up, number one, but again, there was additional perjury involved. In any case, I mean, Alex really doesn't have a background in the supplement business. You know, he saw that it could be lucrative and is doing whatever he's chosen to do. I find it highly questionable to sell people supplements off of fear. And obviously there's been reports that have come out about the quality of the supplements. I don't even get all that, but it's made him
I've heard that myself.
profoundly wealthy.
Yeah. I've heard that myself.
I mean, he's so rich, right?
But a lot of, I will say that I've heard it myself, and I have a lot of, a question in those sort of things. But I'm finding that there's not just him. There's a lot of people doing this. There's a lot of not
GNC. GNC is an entire company based on that.
Well, yeah, but as a personality selling an item is what I'm talking about. It's like Lucille Ball selling.
Well, and selling it off of fear. Yeah, using I think the Ebola thing was a big deal back in the day when they first formed it. You know, I mean, you do that and you segue into a water filter. You do that and you segue into this or that. I mean, it's a manipulation to frighten people into using supplements. I mean, I'm all about health and wellness. I certainly could pursue it a little bit more heartily myself. I've been pretty stressed, but I mean, I really admire the people that use motivation of, this is for a healthy purpose or build yourself up, rather than take this to, be the most manly and to be the best positioned for the supposed impending apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I mean,
plus it has to be. It has to be recommended by people. Like I don't want people I like in TV and news and movies and music selling me something that's not their specialty. Lady Gaga selling me something for my prostate. I mean, I don't know. I want a specialist that deals with it.
Yeah, and so here's the big problem I have with the supplements, right? So Alex is always on the air saying in defense of free speech, and I'm doing this to fund my operation to get the word out, and I need this money for that purpose. Well, Alex filed in court against me repeatedly using the money that he got from the supplements. And not only that, to take away my children. And I'm just this mama, I'm not a perfect mom. I've done things that aren't great. I've done things that aren't great, but I am a good mom. I'm an available, caring, loving mom. So not only has he filed against my motherhood, but he's filed to block my free speech. So actually my coming forward, which I purposely decided to do a couple weeks ago, is an act of civil disobedience. Because right now, in the Texas First Court of Appeals, I'm having to defend my free speech actively. And Alex has something like, I think his team of lawyers now is at 6 or 7 multi-million-dollar attorneys. I have one attorney, and I am fighting for my free speech, for my right to speak openly on the air about whatever I want. And I think that America should understand that when they're buying supplements from somebody or giving donations on a free speech platform to a company that calls itself Free Speech Systems, that person that's at the head of that organization, Alex Jones, whose tagline is the First Amendment at its best, is actively filing against me in court to silence me. And he's not silencing me, he's not fighting to silence me to protect our kids, because his behavior is obvious that he's not trying to protect our kids, especially with what he did last week, endangering our son, putting him on the air in the most highly charged topic in the country, right? He's fighting to silence me because he knows that what he did to me in family court is a complete illustration of everything corrupt and bad that he is about, and his abject and total hypocrisy. And you can see that alone in the appeal. I mean, why should I have to? He can say whatever he wants, and he's trying to stop being censored, but I can't, a mom can't get on the air to talk about injustice. I don't think so. It doesn't equate, right?
Okay, Kelly, you brought up Rex. Let's talk about Rex. You mentioned that he was on the air last week, and he was put there by Alex. Now, if I understand right, Rex is 15 years old, correct?
Yes, and I mean his name wasn't really out there before either. I mean, he is protected by court order. Like, his privacy is protected. Mm-hmm. So I hate to even really talk about him, but yes, he's 15. Alex is enjoined by court order from recording him for any purpose other than for family events. He is required to consult with me, the primary parent, and joint managing conservator on all legal and other such decisions. So he's completely did all of that without my permission, and I can't, like other things, get into why it's particularly endangering for Rex, but I think Americans can see how irresponsible it is to have a 15-year-old kid get up on the air and make instigative and incendiary comments on one of the most highly charged topics of the country. Well, and my son is brilliant. He's a brilliant public speaker. I mean, I can tell you his demeanor is tragically different than it was, and it just seems to be an exact carbon copy of his father's. But it's exploitative, it's irresponsible, and I think it's horrific. I don't think anybody would want their kid up there. I mean, we're talking about David Hogg. He's 18 years old. These kids decided as adults to come forward. My son is a minor child, and I am his mother, and I do not agree with what happened at all.
Well, David Hogg is up there simply because, he is serving at the pleasure of our media right now. He's encouraged by our media. But at some point, somebody has got to stand up to David Hogg, and your son has chosen to do it. Who's to say that he did not choose to do it rather than Alex put him up to it?
Yeah, because
if I understand what you're saying.
Well, because you're not listening.
Well, first of all, I mean, Alex is able to convince. I have people, person after person contacting me on my Twitter account, which is AlexJones_X, and telling me, I lost my husband to Alex Jones. He started listening, and we divorced. And I know so many people. I mean, Alex is a highly persuasive mass manipulator. My children, I can tell you when the verdict came out, my son was very different with me and very, I believe, relieved. I believe they felt like they weren't going to be in the middle of this anymore, and they shouldn't have been, but the judge acted unlawfully and did what she did. And so, no, I don't think Rex really chose that. I mean, I really equate Alex to a cult leader. I absolutely will come out and say that. I can tell you that I'm still in the process of becoming deprogrammed from my experience of being with him. I don't see how Alex is radical, white supremacist, incendiary calls to civil war, things of that nature, are really that much less of a concern than any other cult leader. I mean, we had, David Koresh or whatever. I equate it to something like that, and I believe that what I showed the experts and the court throughout this case clearly demonstrated that beyond that which I can tell you. But no, at 15 years old, do you remember what you're like at 15? Your opinions are not yet formulated. I mean, if Alex is so hot to get my kid on the air, he should wait until he's an adult and can really make his own decisions. At this juncture, the child is in the middle of one of the most high conflict custody situations that there is in Travis County. And I think he saw it on the air. I know that the day before or the day after Alex first aired him, he said that I didn't want him on the air. So that is a clear manifestation of Alex telling my son that to define me, to ignore what I want. That is the opposite of co-parenting. It's a manifestation of the abuse that I showed at court, parental alienation. It's disrespect your mother. Who cares? And, of course, what kid in this day and age wouldn't want to be Insta-famous or all over, the media? That's what kids are about now. But my son didn't get to have that be about his real interest, science or physical fitness. My son told me, Alex is super wealthy. And he said, Mom, I just want my first car to be a Prius. And when I want to go to school, I want to work and make my own way. I don't want to get anything handed to me. And what that told me then was like, man, I want to be my own person. I mean, kids of celebrities or notorious people or whatever you want to call them already have a horrible overlay of living in the shadow of that. This child now has been put forward as the imprint of his father. I mean, yeah, it's very unhealthy. I know a lot of celebrities with celebrity kids, with kids rather, and I don't see any of those people doing that with their kids. It's horrifically irresponsible, and it's a terrible judgment as a father, and I think that many people listening to that already know that. So
now, when you bring this up to the courts, what do they tell you?
Well, I haven't yet had a chance to do that. All my finances were depleted by the custody battle. I have an appeal on file. I kind of feel like some of this activity, it's all very complicated in the legal realm, but it's sort of another distraction to force my one attorney to go deal with it. I mean, I'm actively, seeking additional counsel and compiling facts, and I will take legal action, but, legal things are very complicated. Even just to write a pleading takes some time. I don't have, like Alex has, I don't know how many teams of attorneys now. I don't have that, so I don't have the ability to jump forward right away. I have sent his attorney a letter. My attorney has sent his attorney a letter. My ex-husband is clearly aware that I oppose this. His acting unilaterally is not allowed by court order, so he's clearly violating orders. And it's, there's clearly measures that need to be taken. I'm doing everything I can as a parent. Just one person, no assistant, taking dinner for my other kids while this is going on. So.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle, and you're up against a cult and major cult leader. So, but the one thing, okay, listen, I'm more on your side in everything you're saying right now. I don't think he has the right to do anything with your minor child, just as it is his minor child, without both your permission. I'm not even taking sides. I'm not even going to talk about the history. Two parents have to decide what happens with the child. And Kevin's assessment on Hogg is totally irrelevant to the conversation, because that's not what we're talking about. The other thing is, but the thing that still stays with me the most is, you were with this man for a long time. You were married to him and had 3 children. When was the first time you actually felt that he was, as you would say, like a cult, or he was like a David Koresh, or he was doing things that you didn't like?
I mean, I think from the very beginning, I've tried to explain to people, and I've really come out and laid it out pretty much straightforward. I met Alex at a vulnerable time in my life. I had come back to Austin. My best friend was dying. And Alex is a powerful, manipulative narcissist. And there's boards all over Facebook and Twitter about, leaving a narcissist and dealing with a narcissist. I mean, I was targeted and groomed by an extreme narcissist at the beginning of our relationship, was very adoring and almost bizarrely so of me. And I married him because I felt that I had to, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And I tried to leave him all the time, and it was a cycle of domestic violence. And I really tried to get out of that relationship. I did. I filed earlier, and I just really, unfortunately, stayed in far too long. I mean, Alex did constantly threaten me that if I left, I'd never see the kids again, which has turned out to be, unfortunately, very prophetic, or was for a long period of time. And, just really like heavy coercion and the regular tactics that are involved in domestic violence, So that's the sad truth. And it's horrible. Also, like in my marriage, and you can just verify this by watching his show, which all his big fans, think it's great, I guess, that a father would be on the air as he boasted regularly, 12, 18 hours a day, that he worked all the time, he was literally like many times just not around that much. And so when he was around, it was terrible, but if you only saw him, I don't know, a couple nights a week, and then maybe a few hours on the weekend, I mean, it made it less, I guess, urgent, or I, of course, should have had more of a wherewithal. I mean, I was also very isolated. He made me homeschool the kids. My kids were on swim team, and they had a normal life. They didn't have a completely bizarro life, but it was not, what everybody else in America was doing, and lived out in the country, on a lot of acreage, not in a neighborhood. So it was really a systematic separation, and I still see that going on in my kids' life now with what they're experiencing in many ways. So
in their public life, they have to attend or deal with being who they are. I mean, they're not in a school where people don't know who they are, right? So.
Yeah, they're people definitely know who they are, I would say. I mean, I think they're hopefully in a environment where it's a little bit more sheltered than it might otherwise be. But yes, I mean, and now I'm sure my son, when he walks down the street, has people either hating him or loving him or egging him on or actually just saying the most horrific things to him, which just breaks my heart. I mean, how does a 15-year-old is forming their identity as adolescence is like the hardest time, right? So how do you even process that? Why do you have to process that with the overlay of your parent? It's wrong. It's like, okay, imagine you're a car salesman, right? And all of a sudden you're like, well, my son is the car salesman of the year, and here he comes, and he's going to sell you this kind of car, and this is the only car he cares about. I mean, even that is questionable, right? Yeah. Because the kid didn't decide that how many movies are there about, like, I don't want to be a tradesperson like my father, I want to be an artist. I'm in love with you because I love you. It's just a typical theme in humanity that people deserve the right to live out their future with autonomy, to realize their own dreams, not to follow through on the dreams of their parents or the hate or whatever it is,
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Where do you see yourself going now? Like, what's next? Like, what's the next point for you? What are you after now?
Well, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to bring back in some of the things we talked about earlier, but I am actually very actively involved in trying to expose the real criminal actions that happened in my case, because I know that once the Texas Attorney General or law enforcement has enough public outrage over what they allowed to continue to happen, not only in my case, but in others. So people that affected my case also affect others in my town. They take high payments. They refer to each other. It's just beyond corrupt. I mean, it's demonstratively corrupt. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to raise public awareness about the criminal acts to get the Texas Attorney General to push for indictments to hold people accountable. I think the best thing that could happen for my family is for Alex to be held accountable, because instead of helping him in a highly charged, high-conflict divorce, these people empowered him to bully me and to gaslight me, and they didn't make him pursue any help at all, basically, like none. They had no concerns about Alex Jones. All the focus was on me. The best thing that can happen for this man is to have to sit down, take a long look at self, if possible, and say, whoa, I really am out of control. I really have gone way over, mild, sometimes drinker into heavy alcoholic. Wow. I really have put my kids in jeopardy, and I really have horribly thrown them in the middle of a conflict that never needed to happen out of spite for my ex-wife. Because if he has to sit down and think about it, maybe his heart can have a change. Like, I'm not a hateful person, I'm not a vengeful person. I actually, the only thing I hate is that I'm having to do this, right? Mm-hmm. But I am responsible for bringing forward what happened in my case. There are real monsters, corrupt monsters in Travis County. I'm working on exposing them. And I'm also working on, there's tons of people that are affected with injustice in family court. And everybody thinks it's so boring or personal and it doesn't matter. But I think it's something like 41% of all first marriages in this country end in divorce. And so many people, there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who have experienced injustice. And there's a big community of them. And I believe that my case can draw awareness to this, overreaching problem and hopefully affect real change. I'm developing a software for interpersonal communications between the parties and transparency with experts and attorney-client communications, because I believe that there's a better way to do this to stop the conflict and to support people who are in a high conflict that they never asked for, to give them the tools to prove things up without having to go to tremendous expense and anguish, and to cut the conflict off at the knees by providing transparency between the experts.
So do you ever think that you and Alex will be able to resolve this peacefully? And I don't mean that you're going to go to war, but do you think there could be some sort of, resolve to this?
Compromise, middle ground.
Well, so it is a war. It's a custody war, right? That's why I've launched custodywars.com. I am only the recipient of aggression. I'm not the conflict conveyor. I have reached out to Alex to mediate so many times, to sit down at the table with me and to talk it out. I can't even tell you the countless times I've offered to do that, and he won't sit down and talk to me. I mean, it did come out in court, so therefore I can say it. Alex has a narcissistic personality disorder diagnosis. It's a tragic diagnosis. It's sad. I mean, something horrible must have happened to him to have him develop this personality disorder cover-up. You know, that's what I'm saying about my kids. Like, if you see somebody distressed, you don't know where they're coming from. I actually have empathy for Alex. I feel like he was just egged on, you know, just encouraged. But the narcissistic personality disorder diagnosis makes it impossible for you to have empathy or to be wrong, you know? And so, unfortunately, I keep, in fact, I often tell my friends and say, man, if I could just get him to sit down at the table and to show him, because Alex has said he's against corruption, but the people in my case, and he has acted with evident corruption, or I wouldn't be saying it on the air, right? Because Alex could end up losing everything I have left, right? Because he'll just see me into the ground. But I can say it because it's true, and so this optimistic personality that I have, like, oh, if only you could just sit down with me and talk it out. I mean, everybody's just like, man, give it up. Stop reaching out, you know, because it's not going to work. And it's evident to me that it's not. Alex is brutal to me when he sees me. He laughs at me and mocks me in front of my kids. He makes faces at me. I mean, it's just it's bizarre, abnormal, disturbing behavior, you know. And so, unfortunately, I'm not in control of that. And I just have to speak out to protect myself. I won a jury case. I spent every cent I had to get my kids out of a bad situation. I am primary parent by law, and yet I'm having to appeal unlawful orders that the judge issued. She's a biased, bad judge. Her name is Judge Orlinda Naranjo. She's under investigation in 3 other cases by the Texas Judicial Commission, not just mine. So this is real unlawful corruption. It's like if you could think of the worst thing to have happen to a mother or a father is to lose their kids, right? And it's like being cast as a murderer or cast as something so terrible that you're so awful that you need to lose your kids, right? That's terrible. That's just as heart-wrenching, maybe. I don't know. I've never been accused of murder or whatever, but it's just unbelievably, untenably horrific to have that happen to you. The scrutiny, the shame that you're missing your kids and you're trying to get your kids back, right? It's a frame. It is an unlawful, illegal, criminal gaslight frame, and I will expose it. It's coming out. I'm going to expose it all over my website, and I'm going to do that alongside a bunch of great men and women, mothers and fathers in this county who have been targeted by the same people. And there's going to be no gray area. These people are going to have to be indicted, or people are going to be, it's going to be, I don't know what will happen. It's time for the Texas Attorney General to act, and it's time for big media to cover the story. And because without that coverage and without great shows like yours picking up my story, in darkness and in secrecy, great corruption, true crime has been happening to children across Travis County.
Wow. I wish we had more time. Listen, we'd love to have you back.
This is a whole other show.
Yeah. To talk more as you go further. Give out your information for the listeners, for the websites, and how you want them to reach you.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you for that. So my website is custodywars.com. And the main way that I'm really communicating information ongoing is on Twitter, which is where we met, Al. Yeah. And my Twitter handle is AlexJones_XEX.
Well, fantastic. I've really appreciated you being here and talking about things, and I know there's so much more to go. Again, let's set up another time. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for being patient.
Yeah, and thank you all so much for the opportunity. It's a super complicated topic, and I appreciate you bearing with me. I know it's also hard to stomach and believe that this could be happening, but you've been so gracious in letting me give my coordinates out. It's out there. I'm going to keep adding to it, and I sincerely appreciate you covering this. With all my heart, thank you very, very much.
To find out more about our show, guests, or to listen to past shows from our archive, please go to www.houseofmysteryradio.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.